Hall, Chapter 7, A World Falling Apart. That underground chamber is rather threatening, Amelia. What was that room used for? I asked nonchalantly one summer afternoon as I sat leisurely on a wooden bench in the secret garden. The rays of sun streaming from the canopy of trees soothed my nerves. The birds chirped, and the solar warmth lulled me into a sort of reverie. This secret garden had cloisters on all four sides, and the entrance to it lay in the Italian garden. It had beautiful red roses and rows of strawberry trees. Amelia often told me this is where the monks had traditionally retired to in the afternoons to contemplate. "What underground chamber, my dear?" she asked, absorbed in the scent and murmur of the afternoon, as she continued to pluck juicy strawberries, as was her usual routine during the summer. "The one in the recesses of Vernon Hall. You know, the one with the serpent-stained glass window." Knowing how forgiving Amelia was, I was certain she wouldn't censure me for having ventured into what seemed a forbidden area. However, Amelia dropped her basket, and all the berries she had collected scattered on the green grass. I rose to help her. She glared at me. "You wandered down to the dungeon? How did you do that? Who gave you permission to go there, Eleanor?" she barked. A sudden outrage and perplexity had invaded her, and I had never ever seen her in such a ferocious temper before. Her soft brown eyes had morphed into tiny balls of fire. Her pale cheeks flamed with fury. My lips began to tremble. I could barely speak. "Well?" she barked again. I found the trap door, Amelia. I'm sorry. I didn't know it would make you so angry. I didn't mean to do anything wrong." My voice cracked, and tears ran down my cheeks in shame and guilt. Amelia's stern features suddenly softened at seeing me cry. As always, she embraced me and patted my back. There, my sweet girl. I'm sorry for being so cruel to you. Please calm yourself. Let's sit down and talk." We sat on the bench as Amelia wrapped her arms around me. "Eleanor, I'm only trying to protect you. I never really felt I did anything meaningful in my life, which is why when Pastor Franklin told me that you had lost your father, I decided to take you under my wing. I decided to give you a life you deserved. I don't have children of my own, as you know, and I love you more than a daughter. I may not be the most pious of women, but I do have faith in the Almighty. However, I also believe dark forces exist. And I want to protect you from them, the way a mother would protect her daughter from all the horrors of the world." That underground chamber was used as a dungeon where the evil monks practiced necromancy and whatever other dreadful deeds they committed. That is why it is kept hidden, so that no one ever goes there, and whatever secrets lie there stay buried. I wiped my tears and looked at Amelia. "Forgive me for my tomfoolery, Amelia. Such a transgression won't happen again," I said firmly. As the topic of the evil monks and the dungeon greatly disturbed Amelia, I decided never to speak of it again. Rejecting Gareth had scarred my heart with guilt, and although I confess I had no feelings for him, the thought of his downcast eyes and his despondent face troubled me like needles prickling my heart. But as the months faded, the guilt lessened. Amelia never spoke of my marriage again, nor of any suitors, and I noticed a decline in social visits. At first I didn't quite understand the reason for Amelia's seclusion. Nearly a year had passed since I arrived at Vernon Hall, and I observed a drastic change in her. Her health was declining, she grew weaker and paler each day. She wheezed painfully and often ran out of breath. During the afternoons when the golden sunlight streamed through the windows, she closed the curtains to shut out the light as if it were a dagger penetrating her. There were times she would shun me from the drawing room, when she received visitors, two in particular, a doctor and Mr. Bartholomew, the solicitor. It was when I accused her one night of keeping secrets that she finally revealed them. "Don't have much time to live, Eleanor," she whispered. I was horrified. Nay, that is an understatement. I felt I was on the verge of drowning in sorrow. "What are you saying, Amelia?" "Eleanor, I was diagnosed with consumption a few months ago. I was taking the medication the doctor had prescribed, and I thought I was getting better. But my bleeding has increased. I've been told I only have a few weeks left. That is also why I want you to stay away from me. I don't want you to contract this loathsome disease." Her face had grown even paler, and she had dark eye circles. I poured her a glass of water and gently patted her back. When she gulped down the water and regained her breath, I broke down in tears. "You're all I have in this world, Amelia. I don't care if I grow poorly. I won't abandon you," I sobbed excruciatingly. As always, poor Amelia held me tightly in her warm embrace. "Eleanor, listen very carefully. Mr. Bartholomew has been to see me, and I have given instructions to him. Vernon Hall is to be yours upon my death. This is to be your home officially. Do you understand me, Eleanor?" She gripped my shoulders, and though I was weeping, I nodded. "I have no family except you, Eleanor. You have to take responsibility of Vernon Hall after I'm gone. Everything in Vernon Hall shall belong to you alone. You have to be strong." As the weeks passed, Amelia's health deteriorated further. The coughing became more apparent, and there were bloodstains scattered all over her clothes, the sofa where she sat, and on the damp and cold floors of Vernon Hall. She developed severe chest pain and spells of extreme fatigue and fever. As Amelia gradually sunk into solitary confinement, I was left in charge of the day-to-day running of Vernon Hall. I gave my culinary preferences to the chef for the lunch and dinner menus. I ordered the parlour maids to keep the bedchambers and drawing room in a tidy condition, and I instructed the gardener to regularly trim the hedges in the beautiful Italian garden and to clean the cherub statue and pond. I had also by now gained ample confidence to snub Hugo as and when required. "Miss Vernon would pay my wages in advance when needed, and I dare say I'm in need of money right now," he hissed as he narrowed his eyes and sneered at me. I snapped. "You'll get your wages on the 1st of next month, Hugo. And if you're not satisfied with this decision, I'm more than happy to accept your resignation." Hugo was startled by the sharpness in my attitude. He fell silent, unable to retaliate, lest I should admonish him. For once he realized he was the servant, and I the master. I was never an avaricious sort of girl, and never had any high-flown ambitions. But ever since Amelia had told me that Vernon Hall was to be mine, I felt something change within me. Well, something had already changed in me the day I broke Garrett's heart, but now I was beginning to feel superior to what I had been previously. However, each time I exerted a little more authority, Amelia's words would ring in my ears. "No matter how high your worldly status is, Eleanor, always remember to be modest and equitable. Mark my words." I loved Amelia profoundly and nursed her every day. Her fevers increased, and at times she would murmur deliriously in her swoons, an acute note of distress in her voice. "No, what have you done? What will we do now?" On each occasion, these delusions would be followed by her wailing, a most painful sight, and I would compulsorily jolt her out of her sleep. I would then place a cool washcloth on her forehead and give her a spoonful of laudanum to calm her nerves. She would never recall her babbling, and I would never remind her of it, as I gathered it was the macabre history of Vernon Hall, that history that played tricks on Amelia's poor mind.